Draven and Lucian taken off the board.
So Draven was actually what Attila played last time these two teams met, and Lucian was what Hans Summer played. Attila won the matchup in the bottom lane, but we're going to see neither of those AD carries in this game. And you said it, VIT, the Jarvan comes out first pick from Vitality.
No real surprise. It does have the flexibility of going both to top lane and jungle. Cabochard has had very solid performances on it, and we talked about the Rek'Sai for Maxlaw as well. It was one of his OG picks, and they instantly lock it in. So they've already got early game power. They've got some scaling with Hans Summer on the Kai'Sa. Very excited for this Misfits draft.
All purple team come in, I believe. But yes, I love the Rek'Sai pick. I love the Kai'Sa pick here as well. We saw how strong Hans Summer can be on the Kai'Sa just last week. Vitality now need to work out how they answer. Support AD carry would be my bet in this phase of the draft, otherwise you're going to get a little bit locked out.
Not surprised that we're seeing the Tahm Kench because they're expecting the Alistar to come through from Gorilla. As mentioned earlier, it is his most played support, and it is something that he has a lot of comfort and success with in the laning phase. Now my question is, will Vitality go for something standard? Ooh, they're actually going for the Ryze because I expected them to lock in something like an AD carry, because remember that Cassio is still open, and there have been discussions around Cassio with Conqueror, and she is a very strong pick that can match very well into the Ryze. Don't talk about the hover, it's always a bait. It's also a terrible matchup for Zed. Cassio is kind of where my head is leaning towards right now.
So the new Cassio, you do Twin Fangs max, you max out that E, you get the Conqueror stacks off it really easily, and you can get a lot of damage as well. But instead, for Bibin going more for a control mage, more utility in the team fights in the form of the Orianna.
Interesting. Now, he did play the Ori last week. Remember the Protect the Hans Summer composition?
I do.
They had the Ivan, they had the Orianna.
They had the Kai'Sa.
And they had the Kai'Sa. And Hans Summer basically had a shield as big as his health bar, and he was pretty unkillable later on into the game. Orianna versus Ryze. We can talk a little bit more about that matchup once we get into the game. It's very neutral, very farm heavy. And now we actually see Misfits putting a lot of focus on early game jungle bans, some of the things that Maxlaw perhaps doesn't want to deal with, suggesting that they're expecting this Jarvan to go up towards the top side.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Cabochard's already played it twice this split, although Mowgli's played it twice as well, so an equal split across the Vitality players. Soraka ban, just taken away from Gorilla there.
Oh, that's largely because Soraka is considered such a good pick into Tahm Kench. You can bully her out of the laning phase, and clearly they're expecting Gorilla to play it. So they're showing that respect, they're taking it off the board. Right now, I do think that what Misfits is lacking is kind of engage. I think that even though Rek'Sai falls off, once you get into the later stages of the game, Misfits compensate for that by having good scaling with the Orianna and the Kai'Sa. So now we just need to find where they get that engaged from. And again, you're kind of looking towards this Alistar once more for Gorilla. And perhaps Vitality want to just ban it away, limit those options from the side of Misfits.
And another option is something like the Rakan. It does give you quite good engage. We have seen Gorilla play it, and although it is nerfed on 9.3 into 9.4, it's still strong enough that you can play it. I'm not going to talk about the Hobbits for now. I want to talk about what Vitality are still looking for from this team composition, because we said Misfits want a bit of engage, they've got good scaling. What do Vitality need to round out their comp?
Well, right now for Vitality, they have damage with Ryze. He does very well in a side lane. One of the things that Misfits may struggle to deal with is that potential side lane Ryze later on into the game. I'd quite like them to keep Cabochard on this Jarvan, and they lock in a jungler along with an AD carry. If they wanted a couple more engaged tools, they could consider the Ashe. On top of that, Sylas as well. Remember that this is likely going to be going into the top lane. We saw it last patch, where Sylas was consistently picked into the Urgot. Many top laners consider it to be a very strong pick because of the amount of sustain, and you can even out-bully the Urgot, and even after the nerfs, where his laning phase is made even weaker now, it should be a pretty good matchup. But we're going to see a bit of an Attila special with the Jinx. And this is something that he played, I believe, once, maybe even twice last year.
Yep. Hasn't played it yet this year, though. We have seen, of course, Reckless play it already for fun.
Yes. So yeah, that's quite an interesting matchup. We can talk a little bit about that once we get into the game. But right now, you can see that Vitality, they have a pretty solid 1-3-1 going on. Sylas very strong in the side lane, same for the Ryze. Vitality also have Engage, with Mowgli going to be on the Jarvan. And they also have that scaling late game damage, should they need it, from the Jinx. But I do feel that because they're running Ryze and the Sylas, their team fight is not the strongest. Whereas you compare that to Misfits, their team fight is very strong. You talked about the Rakan earlier on. that is the engage that they were lacking. You have very solid follow-up with the Orianna and the Kai'Sa. The only lanes that they're going to really struggle with is this Urgot, who I think now has a weaker laning phase, falls off harder later on into the game as well because of how hard he gets outscaled by things like the Ryze and the Sylas. Why do I keep forgetting his name?
It's okay.
But Misfits basically want to try and force fights, and they're going to try and use that by building an early game lead and then forcing those 5v5s around objectives. And again, remember we said earlier on, Misfits last week had a bit of an over-reliance on Baron. I expect Baron to be another big point of contention, but it very much depends on how this early game goes, because Vitality, if they get their solo laners ahead, they have the ability to play on both side lanes, and then it becomes very difficult for Misfits to group and force.
So last time we saw these two teams play, we saw Vitality play through the bottom lane. As we came into the pick and ban phase, you said, will we see Vitality do that again? I think we can both agree, doesn't look like they're going to be playing through bot in this game. Much more about their solo laners, whereas Misfits probably going to be looking to get that early lead down towards the bottom lane, maybe in the mid, but Orianna not the best for ganks.
The thing is, when I look at this bot lane, I feel like Rakan is actually a decent matchup into the Tahm Kench, because every time you can actually just focus the Tahm Kench if he tries to consume an ally, they then both get knocked up. But also Jinx's low mobility carry becomes very easy to land that flash, charm, engage setup, which the Rek'Sai can follow up on. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Maxlor invest his resources towards the bot side of the map this time around.
We'll keep our eyes on Maxlor as he goes through his early jungle pathing. And of course on Seiken, his first game in the LEC stage. The Frenchman coming up from Vitality B to sub in for Jizuke, who is unfortunately unwell. We send him all of our best wishes.
Do hope that he gets better. I know how frustrating it is to sit and watch the show from home.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago you did it, a week ago I did it, and already we see Hans Sommer winning the trades.
So we'll have a look, see. What are we setting up for in terms of the early game? Cavachard has taken a bit of a sneaky path.
Yeah.
We do have some committed Misfits fans in the audience.
I'll be
Thank
honest,
you very much for
originally I thought they were saying Vedi.
No.
I was like, oh.
I don't know. Big Misfits fans in the crowd. So what Misfits have spotted is that there was a bit of an invade from Vitality towards the bot side of the map. So Misfits are trading by invading into the top side. I expect to see some vision from Soaz. I do believe we see that Poro being put into the blue side bush. So Misfits will have some vision of the blue buff. There you can see on your screens. And they also have that ward in the river towards the top side, so Maxlor will have an idea of who's starting. And you will notice that Maxlor has no pull, which means that Vitality can assume that he's starting red because they decided to invest vision towards the top side, but they don't have reliable information, as Hans Sommer, Gorilla, and Soaz all appeared in lane at the same time, whereas Misfits should get a pretty good idea of where Mowgli is playing right now.
So Oracle's lens first on Jacktroll here to make sure there's no vision in the bush. Mowgli's going to come across. Ward does come out from Gorilla a little bit later though, so they will know if Mowgli comes in for the gank, but looks like it's going to be vertical jungling for the moment. Map split. However, Maxlor has not gone for that blue invade. He's gone for his own Krugs first.
So to expand a little bit more on what splitting the map is, basically you'll see that both junglers will now, rather than do from top side of the map to the bottom side or vice versa, they now actually go from left to right or right to left. What this means is that Vitality's bot lane doesn't have to worry about jungle attention because they know they have support from their jungler towards the bot side of the map. And this means that Maxlor will be forced up towards the top side, he'll get spotted on a ward, and this means Hans Sommer and Gorilla have to play much more defensively.
Really like this though, the rotation down from Cavachard, just a little bit quicker on the movement, meaning that Maxlor couldn't get that Scuttle Crab. And I've talked a lot to Ender about Rek'Sai and the changes coming in here because he used to be a Rek'Sai main, he played a lot of it on the playtest team. And the couple of changes that we see to her on this patch actually make her a lot stronger. Mowgli jumping in here, trading onto Maxlor, Maxlor trying to get the Queen's Wrath off, heals up as he goes into the burrow as well, but Mowgli in a very strong position to trade here. But the extra Fury you get from Q and the basically undodgeable ultimate now as well actually have put Rek'Sai a little bit higher in priority.
She certainly is. However, what you noticed there was because she was a level down, she loses to the Jarvan. Jarvan does have a decent amount of damage early on, largely because he can get the knockup and he has all that bonus damage from his passive. What Mowgli actually decided to do was, he started on his red, he went enemy blue, he secured the Scuttle for his bot side of the map, and then he immediately went up towards top because he knew that Silas had pressure, and as you identified, Medic, Silas could come down and support the Jarvan should he get into a bit of a skirmish with Maxwell, so he didn't want to take that. He ends up getting 3-buffed, and now this early game focused Rek'Sai is a little bit behind in the early game, which is the worst situation for Rek'Sai, given that she, as a champion, as many junglers will say, is only useful until 20 minutes.
By many junglers, do you mean Ender?
Well, no, I actually, because I had the opportunity to speak to Xerxes,
okay.
I spoke with Amazing on the desk, I had the opportunity to speak with Ender as well, but generally the consensus around Rek'Sai is you build her damage towards the early game, so you go things like a Warrior, maybe you go Black Cleaver as well. Sometimes you'll go things like a GA early, maybe second or third item, depending on your preference, but ultimately you just build a lot of damage early because she has so much burst and it's so easy to stack those Conqueror stacks, and you just gank a lot because you have so many creative gank paths with your E. She's just super strong in the early, but it's difficult for her to actually set plays up later on into the game because you build so much damage. She's very squishy and easy to kill, and all she becomes is damage later on into the game. So she's significantly less valuable.
Cabo trading with Soaz here, but Maxwell on his way, looking for the burrow, flash it. Cabo flashes early, respects the fact that Rek'Sai can just flash in.
So they do get the Summoner Spell out from Cabo. All it requires is an appearance from Maxlore. But again, he's falling further and further behind. Level 4 to the level 3 of Maxlore means that in this early game, Mowgli has the majority of the control. They haven't invested very much into vision, but the experience difference between the junglers is a very big deal.
About 300 gold between them, and every level is about 500 to 600 gold worth of just base stats as well. So every time you see a level advantage, the reason we bring attention to it is because you're getting 1,000 gold just extra in your character's kit.
Now, junglers at home, you will notice that Mowgli has decided to go for a Ruby Crystal, suggesting that he's building Cinderholt and going more for the tanky Jarvan. So for solo queue players at home, if you have 3 damage dealers, you don't need to build more damage on your Jarvan.
What about my KDA?
You can go for the defensive build.
You don't get an S+ with a defensive build, Vedius.
Yeah, well, he's an assist magnet, Medic. He
Okay.
throws his E down, he buffs everyone up. I think Jarvan is one of the easiest champions to get a good KDA on, but it means that you can't afford to die. So you want to be tanky, you want to be an engaged tool, and Mowgli is relying on the rest of his team to be the primary damage sources.
We put a lot of focus on the junglers in the early portion of this game, tracking how they rotated through their jungle paths. Want to bring attention just to a couple of quick item builds here. Execution is calling first on Soaz into the Silas, just trying to get rid of some of that heat.
Oh yeah, it really does help in terms of the 1v1 as well. You'll notice that Soaz constantly being pushed. Ooh,
Flash in from Mowgli, gets the knockup. Cabo Shard with the chase, has the ultimate. Fear Beyond Death will pull it back. And that's first blood to Vitality.
Good play there from Vitality. I love the fact that Soaz had his ultimate copied, and then that was used to execute him before he even got level 6 himself. Beautiful stuff from Vitality.
We said it was Misfits that wanted to have the early game pressure from their jungler. Mowgli finding the perfect opportunity to gank. And Vitality not really losing too much on the other side, you know. Maxlore and Gorilla invading here, trying to steal away the red, but Jacktro's doing a good job of just harassing them across this wall. And Mowgli on his way.
Keep your eyes on the minimap. You'll see Orianna making her way down as well. Mowgli wants to challenge this, but right now he doesn't have the numbers to, so he's going to be forced to back off, or he could risk losing his life.
Losing the red buff isn't the end of the world. Mowgli jumps in, gets the double knock-up, Forsaken on his way as well. Jackdaw devours up his jungler. Attila coming in from across the wall. Zap does not connect because all Misfits will take the party cone across the wall.
I thought I did see an Ignite come out, but must have been mistaken. Maybe it was a red buff. Regardless, Misfits walk away with the red. Maxwell going to be pretty happy. The, at the very least gets one of his jungle camps back, seeing as he only started with one in the early game. But I want to kind of tie back to that early gank that we saw towards the top side of the map. You talked about it. From the side of Misfits, we wanted to see this Rek'Sai having an impact in the early game, and it hasn't really turned into much. Whereas Mowgli, because he knows that he has pressure towards the top side of the map, is able to set up this play. And I love the fact that you can steal away these ultimates and then execute the champion with them. Cabochard was able to get level 6 first, and now they're making a return game.
Mowgli coming in once again, has the Cataclysm now as well to lock up Soaz if he wants. They don't even need to use it. Soaz is done for. Mowgli gets another kill up towards this top side of the map, and Vitality are playing perfectly through this top lane.
And now Cabochard is starting to snowball. He has a healthy CS advantage. He's going to pick himself up 2 solo plates, and you can see already 1.2k gold lead in his back pocket. So while Misfits are struggling to find an early game lead, Vitality are doing what they always do, and either play through Cabo, and even though Jizuke is not here, they're still finding these early game leads.
Really good stuff from Vitality I know a lot of us, when we saw the news about Jizuke, said, okay, we'll change our votes. Misfits are going to take this win, but this start, Vitality playing through their tried and true strong top laner in the form of Cabochard, teaming up with Mowgli. It's quintessential Vitality from this split.
But it's one of those things where when we've seen this champion played in the top lane, it hasn't resulted in wins. It hasn't really resulted in much. Even though he's very strong in a side lane, often teams get forced into 5v5ing at some point. And that's where we see him kind of fall apart, especially with Cabochard actually going more for this AP style of build. And we'll see how that works out for him later, because I'm a much bigger fan of the tank build that we've been seeing out from the LCK and even, excuse me, earlier today.
So I think if you are sitting in Misfits' shoes here, you know, you're only 10 minutes into the game, your early jungler hasn't had the effect you wanted, but you're halfway to that sort of 20-minute Rek'Sai is no longer a good champion mark, right? And you're thinking, okay, first 10 minutes, been pretty bad. What do we do in the second 10 minutes to actually activate this team comp? Because otherwise, you are just going to fall behind the 1-3-1 pressure from Vitality.
Well, Rakan level 6, that's mainly the thing that you'll look to play around.
He's got it.
Yes, he does. And it's really easy to set up a play on the bot side of the map. I don't know if they necessarily have the burst to find a kill, but if they can get some summoner spells, get some plates, start this ball rolling for Hansama, then that's, I think, the next step for Misfits. Because otherwise, if they don't make anything happen soon, Cabochard is just going to continue to extend his lead. Look, now you can see that he's running the risk of getting dived once again. Ryze making his way up towards the top side. All this vision being invested from Vitality to secure Cabochard playing as aggressively as he wants.
Preemptive swap here from Misfits. They don't want to lose out on this first tower. Already 3 of the turret plates down there in the top side. Cabochard getting a lot of gold out of it. Maxwell's going to come in here. They know Mowgli is in that bush now. Gorilla there. So as they all jump in, but there's 4 members. Misfits just waiting around the corner. The Abyssal Void comes in. And now Hansama in the back of the fight. Jumped in with the Void Seeker. So much damage coming out. Gorilla solo on the front line. Maxwell's got 1. Gorilla still alive. Just about. Mowgli eaten up by the time gets just in time. Jackshot has the flash. He'll flash. He'll split Mowgli out. Hansama chasing onto Seiken. Here is Forbidden though. And Seiken left to the walls. It feels like the shockwave connects. And Gorilla across the wall gets in. Dies for it. But they get 2 in the top lane.
And what was that play from Vitality? They saw 4 members from Misfits, but still believe that they could win out on the fight. Fun fact, they don't. Misfits picked themselves up 2 kills for 1, and were able to regain some control back in this game.
Getting this Rift Herald is so big for them as well. Opens up the map even more. Vitality sitting on about 1,000 gold lead at the moment, but that is going to shrink as we see Misfits start to utilize the pressure they just gained.
Really dangerous play there from Vitality. They thought that they could just execute the Urgot before the rest of the team could assist, but they couldn't. Maxwell comes in from behind. You can see all this effort thrown into killing Soaz. I'm curious as to where the ultimate lands. I think it does go... Does it land onto the Urgot or does it land onto the Rakan? I'm not entirely sure, but ultimately they can't find the execute. And meanwhile, Maxwell and Hansama are just devastating the backline, and then Febiven is allowed to just roam up towards top. He lands a great ultimate, and while it does cost Gorilla his life, it ends up being a 2-for-1 overall, and some of these big carries pick themselves up some crucial kills.
Hansama getting a couple of assists in that as well means he's now got a BF sword on the Kai'Sa scaling. Definitely there for the Misfits team. Now, Orianna, Kai'Sa, that team fight later on is going to be so strong. And I do want to bring attention to Hansama because last week he was one of the key reasons that Misfits won their games. The key reasons they went 2-0. Had such a strong performance on the Kai'Sa, on the Cassiopeia. And now you need to see him doing what he did last week again.
And they put some pressure on him by playing the Kai'Sa, but it's a champion that I think he's very comfortable with. And I think in these team fights, he has a lot of mobility and will be very impactful later on. But again, I also want to reinforce Febiven because on this Orianna, he's been having some really good performances over the last few weeks. And initially, at the beginning of the split, I was pretty critical of his performances. I felt like that he was always on the Galio duty. He wasn't converting his leads into significant performances. Whereas last week on the Aurelia, on the Orianna, I really do feel like he showcased much more of what he wanted to demonstrate. And he was a big carry threat for the team. And now he's built up a pretty solid lead in the mid lane. Once he completes that Ludens, he's going to be a very scary champion. And it's only going to get harder for Vitality.
It feels like they're still in an okay spot, though, right? Like, that last team fight wasn't good for them. They do still have a big Sylas who's almost 30 CS ahead, or 21 CS ahead of his lane opponent. He can still split. The Ryze, about even in CS, you know, 15, 20 behind. It's actually about 600 gold down on the Orianna now as well. So you want to see Seiken just getting a little bit more gold funneled into him as we see him engage onto Maxlor. Mowgli jumps in, Soaz with the long range, Beer Beyond Death. Maxlor has a lot of damage, and Soaz will get a counter kill. 1-for-1 trade there in the bottom side.
But that just showcases the amount of damage that the Rek'Sai actually has at her disposal. The fact that that should have been a death sentence for Maxlor. He didn't have the flash. Cabochard was on his way up, but it actually results in a 1-for-1 trade, and Soaz gets the kill, so he's actually a little bit more relevant. But now we've got to keep our eyes on Gorilla as he gets chunked out by the duo of Vitality.
Attila has the ultimate. Gorilla with that shield from his passive, but it will be the first tower to fall in the top side. Vitality get it. Attila gets the goal.
So we didn't talk much about this matchup, but this is a really good opportunity to showcase what happens. Kai'Sa is a very short-range champion, and one of the great things about Jinx is the more levels that you put in her Q, means the more range that she gets in her rocket form. So you charge up the stacks, the attack speed stacks with her base Q. I believe you're going to know the names, right?
Yeah.
Tell me the names.
Which one? The
machine gun?
Fishbones.
Is the fishbone, and then the rocket launcher.
Yeah, the rocket launcher.
Wait, isn't that fishbones?
Yeah, it is.
Because it's the shark?
Yeah.
Oof, you let me down.
That's what I know. I said that. You just decided to pick the wrong name. Because do you want the name of the ability is what I thought you wanted, which
What's
is
the machine gun called?
You have Pow Pow and Fishbone.
Okay, so you charge the stacks up with Pow Pow,
okay,
and then once you've got 3 stacks with the bonus attack speed, then you harass with Fishbones. And because you outrange the Kai'Sa, it's really difficult for her to trade back, so that's how you can harass her during the laning phase. And with a completed BS, now a completed Infinity Edge even, you're in a very good spot.
Hansama going for the double pickaxe build. We're seeing this all the time on Kai'Sas now to get that Q evolution, the Akathian rain up and working. Rift Herald used mid here, but Vitality already have 3 players. The quickness comes in from Gorilla. There's the shockwave as well. It's only going to hit onto Jack Troll. He's very low. He gets taken down. Misfits going to kill him now. They're going to use the Rift Herald to push in mid as well.
So this is what I love about the Rakan pick. I think it's very good against things like Tahm Kench and low mobility carries. Attila was forced to burn both summoner spells, and Misfits still find a kill and a tower, but Vitality's still leading goal.
The thing with this is, that's great for Misfits, right? But if you're Gorilla now, you're looking at no flash, you're looking at no ignite. If you get caught out in the next few minutes, it's actually a really difficult position for Misfits to be in because you don't have your ultimate either. So, Misfits, if they do this every now and again, is great. If they get caught out while in this sort of grace period, they're going to struggle.
What I think is really important to remember, though, is that Misfits are making this play as a team. Because remember, the thing they have to avoid from Vitality's perspective is not allowing Vitality to play on the side lanes. And by forcing these plays, it immediately forces Seiken to come back off the top side of the map. You can't have Cabochard pushing on bot anymore because the risk of them getting collapsed increases. So Misfits have to be proactive. They need to try and force these plays, and right now, they're in a fine position. They can go back to scaling. They still have the team fight ability, but I want to see these confident plays from Misfits if they want to stand a chance of getting a win over Vitality, who is still very strong.
That they are. Want to see how in tune with Vitality Seiken is as well as we get towards this 1-3-1. It can be difficult to enact. You need to understand exactly where you can position, where everyone else is on the map. And Seiken has been playing relatively well in the French leagues. I think Vitality be at 4 and 5 at the moment, just sitting in the 6th or 7th spot. So he's had some good performances, but hasn't always been the most consistent. Gorilla's going to jump in here, gets the double charm Chiller, just about able to get away. Forbidden put the ball in. Maxwell gets a kill. There's so much damage on the time catching now. Mowgli there. Seiken teleported in, but you just can't catch out Misfits. Fight in the bottom lane as Soaz just gets rained hell upon by Cabochard. Flashes away from the Fear Beyond Death, but Soaz is definitely losing this 1v1. Even under the tower, Cabochard just jumps in. Soaz! Oh, Cabochard goes gold. Mowgli on his way, but Maxwell's there to stop him. Cabochard has to flash away. Maxwell trade over to Mowgli. The Void Rush. He chases him down. He sinks in the bangs, but he can't quite get the kill. There's the knockup. Mowgli in the cataclysm. Maxwell flashed away from it, though, and Mowgli's going to escape. Maxwell with an awful flash means that Mowgli gets away, and now Maxwell has to run because Attila is here to help his team. Cabochard jumps in once again, but not too much more going on.
So that happened. Max thought very unfortunate flash there. Means that he couldn't quite secure the kill, which should have been a pretty free kill because he was doing everything right up until that last moment. And it ends up being just a lot of summoner spells burnt towards the bot side of the map, while nothing really gets converted. Drake is still up, Tower's still up.
It was fun to watch.
Let's have a look back at how this all started. So again, Gorilla forcing an engage onto the 3 of Vitality that are trying to gain pressure and get vision around Dragon. They force the teleport while also finding a kill, and then while Soaz tries to come up to help his team, he actually gets engaged on by Cabochard. Now, a good flash here means that he dodges out from his own ultimate, but then Cabochard goes for a dive. And this is the dangerous bit because Soaz still has the shield and a good knockback, But while that's going on, Mowgli and Maxwell begin the 1v1. I like the use of the ultimate to keep close, but Maxwell should recognize here that the flash is already down, and I'm not entirely sure what he was trying to flash there. Whether it be the damage from Mowgli or... I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sold on it either. Maybe thought Mowgli was going to flash away. Seiken gets away. Nicely done from him there, actually. It looked like Maxwell was burrowed next to him, about to land the knockup, but he rooted him in place and used the Realm Warp to escape. And the 1-3-1 still underway here from Vitality. About 1,000 gold, the difference between the two teams. We're getting up towards that 20-minute mark. Whenever you talk about 20 minutes and Misfits, you have to look at whether they'll force fights around that Baron, which is one of the key sort of components of this team composition. Get a neutral objective and force some fights.
Yeah, and the thing is for Vitality, it's a bit of a weird situation for them now because it's really difficult for the Rise to threaten much on the side lane. His primary job is to just wave clear and then look for windows to group with his team because he doesn't have the teleport. And you're actually seeing Cabochard group up with his team right now because he can't afford to push up bot. But the fact that only Cabochard has a lead and it's really easy for Misfits like 3 or even 4-man to engage on the Attila, Jack Troll, Mowgli trio means that it gets harder and harder for Cabochard to actually exert his lead on a side lane. Meanwhile, for Misfits, they're continuing to scale, and what I want to draw attention to is the level difference.
Do it, Betty.
Maxtor is level 11 to Mowgli's level 10, which means the jungler that was behind has now completed his first jungle item and is now working towards the Black Cleaver. Featherman has a whole level up on Seiken and is 1-0-2, likely going to be completing his Morello Nomicon on his next back, and Hansam is still even in levels with Attila. But basically the core carries of Misfits in their mid and AD are in a perfectly fine position. And as long as Gorilla can continue to engage and set up these plays, Misfits still have answers to the side lane pressure that Vitality is trying to force.
Attila does have a whole completed item over Hans Summer at the moment with the Runan's Infinity Edge, just the Infinity Edge of Hans Summer. I wonder if Hans, sitting about 1,000 gold or so we'll probably back and get just a little bit.
I think that came from the early plates. So remember we saw Hans Summer swap to top. I think Attila actually picked up quite a few plates.
He got 4 plate spot, and he got top tower with...
Yeah, 4 plate spot?
I'm pretty sure they got 4 plate spot. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure they got a few plates.
But I know he got plate spot and he got plates top. Ultimately, he got a lot of plates, which has resulted in the
3
gold
plates,
he now
according
has.
to our stats.
3 plates, there we go. So that's where all of his gold is coming from, and you are right. So Attila is very strong, but again, it's really hard for him to do much with the gold that he has when he's just sitting in the mid lane against things like the Rakan that's primed and ready to flash engage on top of him.
Misfits just getting river control here. You can see Attila and Jackdaw try to get in. Unable to do too much. The Zap doesn't steal away the Scuttle Crab, and Misfits will push out mid. And it looks like, once again, they are going to look towards this Baron with Cabochard pushing in the side lane. Soaz has to come across and deal with it. He has the teleport on that Summoner Spellbook, so we'll be able to join the action if any fights do erupt. And I think for a moment, Betty, I want to just take a look at the big picture as we see the teams just banding around this vision control. I'm going to wait because whenever they drop the scoreboard, there's always the possibility of action. Oh, it's back up. Okay, there's no action going to happen, Betty. I'll take a look at the big picture. Because Misfits sitting at 6-6 actually were very fortunate to see XL beat SK Gaming earlier today. It means that SK Gaming is sitting at 6-7. If Misfits take this win,
they join Origin and Splice.
They join Origin and Splice. And, I mean, Schalke's sitting there. Origin's still at 6-6. Did they win earlier today? Have I forgotten?
No, Schalke play Fnatic at the end of the day.
So Schalke wins. They join Schalke and Splice.
No, because Schalke have only 5 losses.
That is true.
So that's why Schalke still... We have the scores on screen.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that. They join Origin and Splice.
Yes, which is a big deal, which is the point that you're trying to get.
That is exactly what I'm trying to make.
Because
they move themselves out of that 6th spot and then get a tied 4th spot instead.
We had a hashtag at the beginning of the day, which is every game counts.
Which it does.
This is one of the more important games for Misfits, because if they can get a win over Vitality, it really does help them in moving up the standings, because they're one of the top teams. But we've got to come back to the game. Sovin is forced to flash.
And cleanse.
And cleanse. So this time, Vitality actually brought their split pusher to the mid lane to try and force a play, trying to leverage the gold advantage that Attila does have. And the fact that Foven has no summoner spells means that he now has to be a lot more careful when pressuring around the map.
It's one of the bonuses of having these outer towers still up as well, because it means the waves will naturally push quicker towards the Misfits side, because minions get cleared out by the turret. So Vitality's still in a good spot for that split push, burning for Bivens' ultimate as well. Sorry, his flash as well around this 23-minute mark.
That is one thing I'd like to point out, that Vitality do have just greater map control right now because, as you rightly said, one of the advantages of having those outer towers up is less to do with the bounce back, but more to do with the fact that the enemy can't push past the river, right? Which means that because you don't have to catch 2 waves when pushing back out, means that Misfits have a much smaller amount of time where they can do something as a 5-man. So in an ideal world, they actually want to take these outer towers as quickly as possible, but to Vitality's credit, they've done a great job of keeping top and bot pushed, meaning Misfits are forced to split up, and they want to try and do this as often as possible.
Hans Summer walks straight over a ward here. Missile Voyage coming in. They're trying to catch Hans Summer out of position. Forbidden there with the shield. Saken running in, but Hans Summer will get sped up. Mowgli now onto Max Law. It's a 4v5 at the moment because that got still down towards the bottom side. Vitality just continues to push forward. They have this map pressure. They can get some deep wards in here as well.
And again, look at the windows that Vitality are using. You already talked about it, Medic. The bot side of the map, so as is pushed underneath this tower. It means that Vitality don't have to expend anything, but they actually had Cabochard TP in, and now they're going to force the Baron. This is very dangerous from Vitality.
Here we go. Vitality start up the Baron. Jackson and Mowgli off towards the side. There's a control ward in the pit, meaning that Misfits do not have a vision on how low this is. Mowgli jump forward, maybe. Gorilla up, has the flash, has the quickness, can jump in.
So I wonder if Vitality are just trying to force a fight right now because they know that Attila is strong, and they think that in the 5v5 they can actually come out ahead. Now the teleport comes in from Soaz. Misfits, so they want this fight.
Gorilla has the engage, got the quickness, he can jump onto that back line, but once again, it looks like Vitality knew they'd burnt their own teleport and had to try and force Misfits to use the teleport.
It just felt like such a strange... Okay, so I think that's the ultimate thing. The fact that Cabochard TP'd in mean they had to try and get the TP out from Soaz. Otherwise, it becomes much harder for them to generate pressure on the side.
But here's he gets time catch as well. But it's Mowgli. Misfits in a 5v3 just force Vitality away. But no summoners really burnt. Only Mowgli used his flash. Cabochard on the chase. Rise still up towards the top lane. Saken, the other part of that 1-3-1. We haven't seen him that much in the side lane by himself, but right now he is, and he's pushing towards this tower.
And again, there's no answer because no one else has TP. Saken still has his teleport up. He now has the level advantage over Febiven. And Vitality's side laners are coming online much more. They've completed more of their core item builds. And this is a great situation for them to be in, but Saken may lose his life.
Flashes away, Hans Summer jumps in, so is on the chase with the Ghost as well. Pops the Fear Beyond Death, Saken goes golden, Vitality starting up the Baron, it looks like. As Saken gets caught out, he's shut down. Vitality did start the Baron, but they stop it immediately. There is also an Infernal Drake on the cards if they want to go for it. Fight in the mid lane, Forbidden pops the shockwave straight away. Jackdaw gobbles up Attila, jump in for Mowgli. Forbidden still surviving. Mowgli will go very low, but he's still alive as well, and Vitality get a 1-for-1 trade.
No summoner spells on Febiven meant that Vitality could look for that pick and secure it. Ends up being a 1-for-1 overall, as you identified, Medic, but Misfits should now be able to take some of these outer towers down, which means they'll be able to regain some pressure on the map. But Vitality, even with a sub, even though it cost him his life, he got a really big objective there for the side of Vitality. The fact that he drew so many members of Misfits up towards the top side of the map means that Vitality may be able to finally take down this mid-tier 1.
So it's still clearing it out. Attila sitting at 3 items, that rapid fire cannon, Runant Hurricane combination, giving him a lot of critical strike chance alongside that Infinity Edge. Mowgli going to start up the Infernal here, should be pretty easy to kill for them because the rest of Misfits have just gone back to reset. And now, when we get to this point in the game, Vedius, I think you always have to look at, will Misfits be able to force a fight quickly enough to deal with Vitality split pushing?
It's about where and when you force the fight, right? Because if you just blindly engage onto the enemy team and you don't convert it into anything, then there's the risk that you just lose your side lane because you spent all these resources and now you don't have anyone to deal with the man that's just sitting in a side lane pushing non-stop. So the thing that we're seeing that's harder and harder to do is actually catch Attila out of position. Jack Troll is doing a great job of providing that peel whenever necessary, which means that your priority target is very... Ooh, Mowgli.
Mowgli caught out. Pops the stopwatch. Doesn't have the flash, but Jacktrow's there with the Devour. Jacktrow has been on point, gobbling up his teammates to keep them alive in this game.
That was very dangerous from Mowgli. I think he face-checked that, and he could have very well lost his life there. Will burn the stopwatch. Continuing to build much more towards that tanky route, but I like that we're still seeing Saken off in a side lane. He has the TP. They're actually sending to the bot side of the map now because Cabochard doesn't have the teleport, so if you keep him top lane, he'll be closer to the Baron should it start off. Meanwhile, Soaz, no teleports. He cannot join the fight. So if Vitality were to force anything, now may very well be the best time for them to do so.
Looks like they're just going to try and push for this mid lane tower. Hansama is up towards the top side, catching away. Maxwell maybe
dangerous.
Forcing onto Seiken here. He has the teleport, has the realm warp as well, but Maxwell going in. Tower goes down in the mid lane. Vitality on the chase. Maxwell gets the knock up, but Seiken just trading. Winning the 2v1 at the moment. Abyss of Voyage comes in as well from Jacktroll. There's the redemption. And Seiken, he's pulling his best Jizuke face on because he takes him out in the 2v1. The realm warp coming in for the chase as well. And there's something about Vitality mid laners playing Ryze in a side lane because today is Seiken's day.
Double kill for the substitute mid laner as he outplays Misfits. The rest of the support comes in from Vitality, but honestly, it wasn't needed. Beautiful step there from Vitality, and again, you see the weakness of this Rek'Sai later on into the game. Very squishy, full damage, instantly gets killed, and now it's Gorilla in trouble.
Charm came out from Cabochard, stole away the ultimate. There's the redemption as well. Gorilla will be healed up. It doesn't want to use the ult. Cabo gets the kill, and now the Baron started by Vitality. They've just opened up this map in a heartbeat, it feels. 28 minutes in, they're going for the Baron. 5,000 HP on it. Cabochard very low, but he heals up with the Kingslayer. 2,000 HP left on the Baron. He's going to get taken. The shotgun comes out with a big great and Nutella flashes across the wall for the kill. He takes one. He's looking for Hansama as well. Can't quite land the zap, but he will chase away Misfits.
And Vitality secure everything. They get a bunch of kills. They find themselves the Baron, and now they're looking primed and ready to shut down the 2-0 from Misfits last week. Beautiful stuff from the mid lane from Vitality, setting up that play. We'll likely get a replay of it, and as you said, Medic, Vitality's mid laners doing stuff on a side lane with Ryze. Beautiful shout out to Jizuke, who is sitting at home, and Seiken in our Alienware replay will just demonstrate how much damage the Ryze does have against a squishy target. No magic resistance means that he just blows Maxwell up. And then you also have the assistance from the other Vitality members, but again, Seiken, he probably didn't need it. He has more than enough damage himself. He had the Realm Warp, and they're able to take down Soaz. So double kill goes to him, and then they immediately make their way towards the Baron. And in this situation with no jungler, and a bit of a misplay there from Gorilla, ends up getting collapsed upon very quickly. He ends up losing his life as well. And then with only a 2 versus 5, Misfits couldn't do anything to stop the Baron from being taken.
Now just pushing in the mid lane. Vitality going for a 1-4 split. It's Seiken off towards the side lane, just keeping that cannon minion buffed up, and Misfits 6,000 gold in the hole. 30 minutes in, Vitality knocking on these tier 2 towers. And you have to think they'll break the base open with this Baron buff. Still 2 minutes left on it. Already got 3,500, 4,000 gold from it. And they take this mid lane tower next. Misfits, do you just pull the trigger? Do you wait until the minions are pushing in? Because there's double cannon in the bottom wave and there's a single cannon in the mid, and Attila with that rapid fire cannon can get some free shots in. Seiken stepping forward, using the shield to get some extra damage down. The mid lane tower down to about half as well. Bot lane on a third. Mowgli jumped in on here. Gorilla trying to catch him up, but didn't want to use the ultimate. Now Vitality just reset. Wait for the next wave. You can push in just a second. Seiken there. 10% HP on the tower. Seiken will just let the minions do the work. 3 cannons, everything you need in that bottom lane. And now he can wait for this mid lane wave to push. Misfits have to answer and then push back towards that tower, that inhibitor if he wants. Vitality instead will just take the mid lane inhibitor. And they have totally broken the base of Misfits. Maybe broken the hopes of Misfits in this game as well.
Calm, patient play from Vitality. They don't need to force anything right now. They have the Baron. They have the minions, they have the pressure. They even have top wave slowly pushing towards Misfits base. Misfits, they're gonna have to rely on some crazy wombo combo, but that's gonna have to come off the back of Gorilla. If he can find that engage, maybe they can turn this around, but here we go.
Here we go. Jacktroll gobbles up Seiken. Gorilla jumping onto that backline, but Captain locks him in. 4-man charm, though. It's Forbidden there with the shotgun. Not quite. Unable to get in position in time, and already Cabochard's going on a killing spree. Mowgli forced out towards the bottom side. The Realm Warp comes in. It takes 2 onto the backline, and Maxwell low. Forbidden chased out as well. Hansama chased out by 3 players from Vitality. He's in the midst of them all, but he's done. And Vitality just sweep away Misfits in their own base. Clean as you like. Vitality are going to end this game in a heartbeat.
Good stuff there from Vitality. 4 members of Misfits are dead.
And Vitality now 9-4. They've hit the magic number. They're pretty much guaranteed that playoff spot.
Definitely on track. Good stuff from Seiken in his debut game. You can see the smiling faces coming out from the Vitality players. He's got to be happy. Not only did he play the famous Ryze from Jizuke, the staple pick for Vitality, but he had a fantastic performance on it as well. Laning phase didn't go the way he wanted. He definitely fell behind, but he kept going to the side lane. He kept sticking to his guns, and he made it work.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Definitely did. Great stuff from the rookie on the stage. one that will be up and coming for many years to come, I am sure. Misfits, on the other hand, just never really got going. Never really got their game plan going. We said that you wanted to get ahead in the early game with the Rek'Sai. Can't remember seeing a successful Max Lord or gank, really, apart from that flash in the top lane.
I mean, there was that one poor play that I think came from Vitality more so, where they tried to force a fight towards the top side of the map against a numbers advantage from Misfits. That could have been the window, but again, we just didn't see enough forcing. It was one of those situations where, because how far behind they fell in the top lane, meant that it was really difficult. The fact that the outer towers were up for so long. Yeah, I think the Urgot pick personally was not the best one.
Suboptimal.
Yeah, I think they could have saved it for counter. Instead, they just saved the Rakan for the very last pick. Yeah, and I don't think the draft helped Misfits, but ultimately you can't take anything away from the fact that we saw a strong early game from Vitality. Yeah. They played the side lanes very well. I think they took a couple of risky Barons, which could have ended in disaster, but they also had a good enough awareness to know, okay, we can't actually commit to this. And, you know, we talked a little bit about it when the Baron happened. They kind of had to force it to get the TP out from the Urgot as well. So I think it got a little messy in the mid game, but ultimately it resulted in good 1-3-1 from Vitality. And once they got the Baron, they cleaned up the game very, very easily.
And I think, as much as, you know, it's disheartening for Misfits to lose this, especially since SK just lost, so you really want that extra win. They have got they've got good head-to-heads against most of the teams around them, and their schedule, they've still got XL to play. I mean, they've got Splice, they've got Shao. It's not the easiest schedule, but they should be able to eke out a couple of wins.
This is one of those games where if you'd won, it's only good news, but this probably isn't the most important game that you have to win.
It's not the end of their playoff dreams.
Yes, they're going up against Fnatic, I think, next week, and I think that's the game that they have to win. Otherwise, their playoff chances definitely take a hit.
They definitely do. Well, we're going to see what Vitality's mid laner has to say after taking down Misfits.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Seiken, for joining me. Taking down Misfits, taking down Fabian in the mid lane. How special was it for you to play on the LEC stage for the first time?
It was insane, actually. Like, it's a dream for me, so it's really insane. Fabian is one of the biggest mid laner in the world, so yeah, it was really good to play against him.
I know you've been used to play in the EU Masters last year, in the LFL this year, which is an online competition. How different is it to play on stage versus in the LFL?
It's way more... I mean, the level is way higher, actually, so... I mean, I was nervous and shit, so... But yeah, it's just so good, actually. You
were nervous, but you did so good. I mean, having to fill Jizuke's shoes must have been hard for you, right?
Yeah, actually, I was like so nervous at the beginning because Jizuke, I admire Jizuke so much, so he's just so good. And yeah, just playing with his teammates, and it's just good, actually. And yeah, like...
On the background, actually, we can see you smurfing on the bot lane with the Rek'Sai trying to gank you. That was a really good action from you. Is there anything you would like to say to the French fans watching you right now? Because everybody was waiting for this interview at home.
Thank you. I received a lot of messages, and thank you all, and merci à vous.
And thank you for joining me, Seiken. We're going to take a short break, and we will be back in 4.5.
Well, thank you very much, Lauren.